So hello and welcome back to another episode of Station Customs. And today I'll be focusing about my wooden railway Edward. And yeah, pretty much the same story. Actually, no. Edward was never actually given away to my cousin for some reason. Edward is one of the few that I actually kept, but that was only because it was bad at quality or something. But now is all for the restored. And now I'm going to show the custom Edward the Blue Engine. So this custom began like this. Edward was pretty much this engine with no chassis on his tender. I pretty much attempted to make his accurate wheel configuration, but it didn't work. I feel like back then Edward had a pretty okay lining, though he had some paint problems and some other issues like his faces. His chassis block, since it didn't have the hole for the coupling, I had to cheaply glued on his coupling with tape that I'm pretty sure that I got off from a little lorry. And I also need to say that I made a sad sacrifice. And a sad sacrifice is Gleaner. I sadly had to scrap Gleaner. And I no longer use him. And yeah, that Glean was thrown away. So, yeah. And like I said, I tried to make his accurate wheel configuration, but it didn't really work. It didn't run well. But oh well, at least Edward existed. So yeah, let's get for the modification. So I started with just removing everything apart, and like it didn't need to do anything really. I just unscrewed the smoke box, and I also removed that chassis block since I wouldn't be using it anymore. At least that was I thought. And I also removed plenty of the tape wheels on the side. So if you would have remembered, I replaced the coupling from Thomas. And if you would have also remembered, I said that Thomas alongside with another engine was the only engines that I removed that coupling when I was disassembling. That was because the coupling was so well glued on that I just couldn't remove it. Then I forced it out of Glen and Edward by taking a hacksaw and cutting the coupling off. And it worked. And the sanding was just basically sanding off the decals. The tender was more sanded off, and I would have made a simple discovery that the set tender was actually belonging to an old James custom, the first James tender I ever used, alongside that it used the Gordon, as you can see there, since all of the tenders that I had in the past were used in Gordon, though I did bought an Edward tender at once to make a gleam, but I no longer use it. Then I started shaping. So I made another video like Thomas, and as you can see, Edward also used to have a Ertl style side rod. I also gave him the coupling, but like Thomas, it was too big for the couplings that I bought. And as you can see, this is how James's tender used to look like. I added clay for his additional details like his wheel arches and his two safety valves and whistle. It's not showing on the camera that time. Here are his couplings. Here is how I sanded because I don't know if I said it yet, but I just started rubbing the engine on the concrete to get the sanding off. And yeah, but then I decided to change the thing and just remove the wheel arches because I didn't like them. And I also added this cargo car chassis that I had painted before to look like an Edward chassis for a previous custom that wasn't moving around. It was Trackmaster. And I also added the small couplings around then, and I'm pretty sure that the smoke box may or may not be from Thomas. Actually, no, it's from Edward. Yeah, it's from Edward. And his final wheel arches, I had this idea of taking a cardboard box and adding his wheel arches like this, and I'm really more happy with how it turned out than the clay ones. And I had to remove the clay ones. So yeah. Though I did keep the original clay dome that I had added on Edward because I had removed it before to make it a Runway Series custom. And much like Thomas, I just primed him using white paint. Nothing special to see here. And once again, I painted Edward in only blue, his main blue coat of paint, where it would be necessarily to paint him blue and get his running board as primer. And like I said, I really like this blue, but I only painted blue for now. This is where I start adding those paint details. Those where I paint the running board, paint the details black, except I kept the running board white. It's pretty simple, but I like looking at it. It looks nice. And much like Thomas, I added his lining pretty much the same way. And here are his faces. Yeah, I know that the picture is crappy, but that's okay. And I also draw the name Edward on the face and the back of the face. And this is Edward with his face on. Look, if I have to say, I feel like Edward out of all engines have the best lining work, especially on his boiler. As you can see, I also added tape to resemble his boiler bends, his handrails actually. Here are his number two, which I just traced on with a pen, I think. Here is a closer look. You can see that I also added his windows as yellow tape. Here is his coupling, which differently from Thomas, I had covered with tape because I couldn't remove it. But that's okay. And yeah, that's his face, his default face, well alongside with his coupling and with his, you know, overlines on the running board. And yeah, it was pretty simple. And here is his tender. I don't necessarily like the lining on his tender, but that's okay. His yellow on this side sounds a little bit dirty. And differently from the old other Edward, I actually removed his backlining just because I didn't thought that it was necessary anymore, because back then I just have this unresistible urge to add these backlinings on the engines no matter what. But nowadays I don't really have it, and I also painted the front of the engine black and the coal one. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Edward. He can pretty much run the tracks pretty well. I think that these wheels are actually a little better than the actual wheels from Wooding Railway. Although I don't think so. He do run bumpy, but at least he runs. And yeah, that's pretty much Edward. That's pretty much all you need to know about Edward. So yeah, bye. Psych. Oh yeah, I didn't finish it just. Yeah. So if you remembered, I said that this wasn't the last time that Thomas and his friends would be customized. And it seems like the day had come too soon as I started to customize on a project. I started to convert my engines to run on this train set. Yeah, That's right. I did that. So it started like just taking away the bogies from that setting. In case you're wondering, it's a scale track. And then I added a cardboard base to raise up the engine. And this is where also the coupling system will be keeping. Although I had to basically cut away the original chassis first. And I sadly damaged Thomas's model while doing so because I yank it off because I was trying to yank it off the chassis using a knife. I found in yeah. But now with Edward, well, I couldn't do it properly because that super glue that I used was super strong and it refused to leave the chassis and it was pissing me off. And since I didn't want it to just hacksaw it off because I just was too tired of cutting, I decided to pick a big hammer and just yank it off, and somehow it worked with no damage. And now here are some shots of Edward and Thomas running. But I wasn't done with him just yet, because I apparently just looked at it and said, no, look, he has 8 small wheels. And like the actual Thomas had 6 small blue wheels. So to fix this issue, well, I've just removed the wheel, ones of the wheels, and then he now has 6 more wheels. And remember the fact that I was trying to add a little two side rods for Thomas and Edward? Well, Thomas and Edward's two side rods had returned in a new way. So yeah, pretty much kind of reminding me of the Mad Bomber, wouldn't it? Yeah, Edward actually I didn't remove it, though I did add a different side rod to resemble his wheel configuration. So I guess he's back to having the right wheel configuration. So I removed the wheels for painting, not for Thomas because I was being stupid and I just painted on the chassis, so I have to repair him with black details. Not to mention that ones of the wheels were glued, and yeah, Thomas's wheel conversion was a little bit of a disaster, and I painted the wheels blue. I wasn't sure on this conversion, and yeah, I forgot to mention that Edward already didn't run so well because of his wonky couplings, and now he's probably going to run even lesser well because of the paint that I use. But oh well, at least it can run, and that's all that matters for me. And before I showed you the picture of Thomas, I going to show the picture of Edward. So in request of this guy that I got in the comments, I going to supposedly make him spin around, and I was also a little tired of just building sets and putting them to film. So yeah, this is the shot. Yeah, you may be thinking that these chassis are way too big, probably even bigger than the new wooden railway engine wheels from 2022. But I digress, I still like it. I like their couplings. I like the fact that I finally added their two side rods again, because without it, I thought that it looked too missing. Though, like I said, it sadly glued one of Thomas's wheels off. And yeah, without careful hands, Thomas isn't a great runner, but I'm happy with him. And yeah, this is Thomas. And now here's Edward. As you can see, like I said, added his smaller side rods with all of his wheels on without any of them being removed because, with the exception of his tender, yeah, it was pretty alright. Though I decided to paint Edward's wheels. I was already smarter and removed all of the wheels for painting, so no wheels would have been glued. At least not by the super glue, but they're kind of glued by their sticky paint. And like I said, I like his lining. He's probably the best amongst the engines, though he doesn't run the best in this type of conversion. I can only hope that you like Edward, this Edward custom I made. And much like Thomas, he also has different face packs that I can show for any videos, for any situation. So he won't always just keep a simple smile when the scene's supposed to be depressing or something. So yeah, I'm happy with this Edward conversion. I just like it, though there is one problem with this will conversion, is the fact that I only had so many bogies with them, and sadly, it's not enough bogies for the amount of engines that I got. So yeah, although I got a few decent numbers of engines, I'm sorry to say that the bogies for them is not enough. I still need some more bogies and some more bogies for rolling stock. But oh well. And yeah, sorry if the episode was a little bit boring, but I just didn't edit it properly. I just didn't want it to edit it properly. I got a little lazy, but hey, at least I told a story. And yeah, next time that I will make these customs, I'll show more videos. Though I don't promise, and the next episode probably going to be something around the same thing as this. So sorry if the episode was a little boring. So yeah, thanks for listening and watching, and yeah, have a nice day and bye.